What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning into another video. Today I want to talk to y'all about what I believe to be one of the best hard baits to fish for spooky wintertime redfish. What we see in the wintertime is a lot of these fish grouping up into large schools and hanging in a little bit deeper water where they still have access to that shallow water, but they might be hanging out in that 3 to 5 foot range, sometimes pushing up shallower. Not only does the cold water really affect the aggression of these fish, but also the amount of pressure that they receive, because they become such creatures of habit. They stay in the same areas, and people will come in and fish them over and over again. So sometimes you feel like, oh, I've got to fish live bait if I'm going to be able to catch these fish in the winter. These big schools just get so pressured, and they're not going to eat an artificial. So the time I put in trying to learn different baits to throw to these fish, different tactics and ways to get them to eat, this little 3DS Minnow has been something that's really been beneficial for me. I fished it a lot in the winter months for trout. And so I had it tied on, and I started throwing it for redfish, and it really works well. The nice thing about this bait is it's just a small bait, and it suspends so well in the water. So you can keep it in that bite zone, you can keep it in front of them, and it's so little that little movements, you get these little slashes back and forth, little cuts back and forth in the water as you twitch that rod tip. You can really draw those bites from those fish that are a little spookier. So there's 2 ways I'll fish this. So right out of the box, I'm going to go ahead and change my hooks to owner stinger hooks, and they're in a size 2. They're a little bit stronger, a little bit sharper than the hooks that come with out of the box. But that strength is definitely something you need when fishing for the redfish. Those little hooks that come on these baits out of the box, they just won't quite hold up to big 25, 27 inch redfish. They're gonna end up pulling them straight. So I'll change to those owner stinger number 2s. So some of the baits, I'm just gonna change the hooks out and fish them as is. And remember, if you don't change anything else out, they're gonna float up to the surface. So when you throw it, it sits on the top. You gotta wind it a couple times or jerk it a couple times to get it down into the water column where you want it. But I'll also use these storm suspending strips. So what you can do is add however much you want onto this bait to get that bait to sink, and you can get it to sink at different rates. The big thing you want to be careful of is balancing the amount of strip you put on, kind of on what I would say the keel of this bait, because if you put too much on the front or too much on the back, it's going to dive or it's going to sink back. You still want it to have that slow fall where it's parallel to the ground, parallel to the bottom. So what I found is the center point of this bait, balance-wise, is a little bit behind where this first ring is. So you want that weight to transition. You're always going to have a little bit more in the back behind it, and you're going to have a little less in the front. And that's something you really have to play around with. And what I do is I'll fill my sink up with water, and whenever I have a jerk bait that I want to add some weight to, and I'll just put on what I think is going to work, and I'll set that thing in there and see how it falls. If it falls head heavy, then I know I need to take a little off the front. If it falls tail heavy, I know I need to take a little bit off the back. But that really allows you to play around with the sink rate of this bait and kind of get it right in that sweet spot. This one's going to sink pretty fast. I've got a decent amount of lead on here, and this one I've got kind of rigged up for trout. But the redfish, a lot of times you don't really need the lead unless they're sitting in a little bit deeper water. If they're sitting in that 3 feet, this bait gets down there pretty nicely with the bill it's got, and will sit and just kind of slowly float up. So I like to kind of twitch, get it down out in front of them as that school's coming, and just let that bait kind of lift up through them, and then twitch, and it'll kind of dive back down just below where they are in the water column. Let it rise back up, twitch. And I'm moving it so little. I'm moving it 2-3 inches at a time, just little movements like a cold menhaden, cold bunker in the water. Honestly, for a long time, all I really threw in the winter was soft plastics, and soft plastics work, but when those fish are suspending off the bottom a little bit, sometimes they do not want to move much to eat. And that's why a fly works so well this time of year, because you can kind of suspend that fly right into that school of fish and just keep it in that bite zone. You can really do the same thing with one of these baits. A jig head, just kind of pulls that soft plastic right down to the bottom and underneath those fish. And so if you haven't tried one of these 3DS Minnows, you really should pick one up and try them for redfish this winter. They work year-round, really great trout baits as well. But I just wanted to share with y'all how this is a really great wintertime bait to add to your arsenal for redfish. I can't tell you how many times in the winter I've sat on a nice school of redfish, big fish, small fish, whatever it may be, unspooked, and throwing baits in there, unspooked, and just really not getting bites. And so I've had the time to play around with different baits and figure out what works, and this is definitely one of my tactics that I jump on pretty quick if I feel like the bites are not going to be super aggressive. It's a great way to pull some bites from fish that just don't quite want to eat. Well guys, I hope y'all liked the video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. It's a huge help. You can press that like button down at the bottom. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's any type of videos you want to see, shoot them over here on YouTube. You can do it on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll be sure to get back with y'all on those. And just thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Later.